Ho, 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 Merry Wintersday, said Tix in the Infinitarium. Ho, 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 ho. Alright, yeah, it's Wintersday. Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk a little bit about the Wintersday patch. This thing always catches me by surprise. I'm always just like, oh, it's Wintersday, they haven't changed very much. I'm not too excited. Then I go in and I'm like, oh yeah, the bell choir's back, the snowballs are back, the Infinitarium's back. And I realized there's actually quite a lot going on. And at the very least, ArenaNet once again did change a lot to do with the rewards of Wintersday. So this was a fairly huge patch. And I've got plenty to talk to you about for the patch today. And we'll be covering more Wintersday goodness and the new things they've dropped in over the coming days. But today I want to put you guys in the loop. This is the big mid-December patch. It's not the entirety of everything we've heard coming in December. For example, some of the balance changes that I mentioned very recently on a video actually aren't coming today. They're coming in like a hot fix a little bit later. But certainly a lot of the big stuff has happened now. And this includes not just Wintersday, but changes to Fractals. Hallelujah! It's going to be fantastic. So let's have a little bit of a look. The footage in the background is trying to show a bit of the variety of the various bits of content it's got to offer. And if you're a new GW2 player, if that's because you started with free-to-play over in summer, or hell, you maybe even started with Heart of Thorns, I can actually promise you there's a hell of a lot to enjoy here. So let's first talk about the most important change, absolutely, of the entire patch, and that is the fact that the Howler, the legendary Warhorn, has had its visual effects fixed. Yeah, I'm going to say that again. Howler has had its effects fixed. Wow, this has been broken for so long. And isn't it quite fitting that, you know, this icy-themed legendary weapon has been fixed on the Wintersday patch? My God, I am absolutely over the moon about this because I built the Howler just before Tempest came out so that I could run around with it, and I've always felt a bit rubbish. So this has been improved. But at the same time, another hyper-prestige item, the Queen Bee. This is the item from the Silver Waste, which lets you look like you have a swarm of bees around you and actually changes your fall damage effect to splat honey around you. One of the coolest items that I still don't have for myself. This thing actually was basically removed from the game, and its ID would seem to clash with a new Wintersday item they've added. So anybody who has a Queen Bee this patch, which isn't many people, let's face it, but if you have one and you log in, you'll actually find it's gone and it's been replaced by something else. Never fear, ArenaNet have actually been really active, specifically on Reddit recently. I don't know whether this is because I've subbed to another subreddit that tells me whenever they leave posts, but devs are already confirming it's been marked as a bug. It will get fixed very quickly, and hopefully quickly indeed, because the Queen Bee just doesn't exist right now. Still talking about like hyper prestige. Who remembers what they did at Halloween? At Halloween, this was right at the same time as the Heart of Thorns release, and they kind of saved the event by simply adding a new reward. Well, they changed quite a few things, but they added a new reward, Night Fury, an awesome shoulder piece that didn't actually have a skin associated with it, but put a special effect on your character. I did a lot of talk about it on the channel. This thing cost, especially when it came out, a lot of money, and it was a particularly exciting thing because for a long time nobody even knew how to craft it because it was a kind of an obscure Mystic Forge recipe. Well, they've done the same thing for Wintersday. Sort of. See, there's another hyper prestige item. This is Winter's Presence. Yes, the name of it is a pun. Yes, once again, it's a shoulder piece. Yes, once again, it has no physical look, but it kind of gives you like this snowy, glittery effect around you that will persist throughout the entire year. It's quite nice. Obviously, those of us who love stacking auras, you know, putting this thing on with a couple of legendary auras, with the Queen Bee, with perhaps, you know, the Gorseval ghostly infusion from the raids, we can stack a lot of stuff at this point, so you might like it for that idea. But I actually feel like one of the things that made Night Fury so fun has kind of been eliminated a little here. Maybe the devs felt that rather than it being fun, it was just frustrating for people. They saw a niche amount of the community wasting tons of gold checking out random Mystic Forge recipes. And so now the way you get this is, as far as I can tell, purely through a collection. There's even a little bit of footage of me looking through that collection. I don't actually know how hard it is to get this time, so perhaps it's a little premature for me to say it's hyper prestige. I will continue to assess that and talk a little bit about it over the festival. Maybe throughout Wintersday I'll end up going for it and we can talk a bit more about it with you guys, but I just wanted to let you know at least that it does exist. I just feel like if there's no Mystic Forge component, it does remove one of the more fun things and mysterious things about Night Fury. Speaking of the Mystic Forge, not so much associated with this patch, but the devs have always told us that there are missing Mystic Forge recipes that are out there and nobody's quite figured out. Well, as a bit of tertiary news, I suppose, very recently somebody discovered one of these. Turns out those sun beads, that weird material, that weird currency you can get specifically tied to Sparkfly Fen and the Hylic there, actually by throwing 250 of these into the Mystic Forge with some other generic stuff like an Eldritch Scroll, as we know about many of the recipes, you can actually build a really cool looking stuff, like an awesome stuff. And if you guys didn't catch that, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I may even make one for myself at some point. I can't remember the name. It's got a cool name. But yeah, so those are big changes to the rewards. They actually, more importantly, I suppose, to be serious about an important change, is they've changed the way that Wintersday gifts work. So if you've never participated in one of these earlier festivals, the way that the Wintersday gifts were working was it was kind of like you'd do a basic thing, say the Bell Choir. You get a little bonus chest appear above your minimap and it's bouncing around. You click it, open it up, and it gives you a single gift. Then you double click that gift, and the gift gives you like 3 more different packages of things that you double click to open those. And then perhaps even inside one of those, you double click again to finally get your reward, which is likely to be something as like a woolly sweater, which then the game's asking you to salvage down. And it was just like a bit of a mess. And Wintersday, out of everything, Guild Wars 2 in general is kind of notorious for having a lot of double clicking at the moment. They fixed a bit of it, I suppose, with the consumable stacks on luck, but the game's notorious for it, and Wintersday is kind of the pinnacle, in my opinion, of double click in Guild Wars 2. They've changed the way these rewards work. There's more stuff coming out now. You can actually transfer your old Wintersday gifts into new ones and like enjoy some of these new items that come out. I don't know extensively the loot table. I know a couple of minis have been added. I actually think that now that they've affected maize barn farming and really spiced up a lot of the rewards in trick-or-treat bags are really good. And if ArenaNet have recognized that and altered the Wintersday gifts to feel a little more like trick-or-treat bags, we could be in a great place. So far, all I'm seeing is, mostly alcohol and stuff come out, and let's face it, alcohol in Guild Wars 2 doesn't hold a candle to alcohol in Guild Wars 1, which is a bit of a shame. But hey, so there is a big change there, and just that nuisance being removed, I think, has made me smile and be a lot more excited about this Wintersday festival than it should have. So let's talk about what is actually here. Let's talk about the content. Let's talk about what you're seeing on the screen. Wintersday is, in my opinion, made up of 5 different big things. Number 1, you got the Infinirarium. Now, this is a variety of different activities you can do there. There are achievements associated with it. There's kind of an idea of a tower defense-y, firefight. I always think of it like Halo ODST firefight style minigame you can play there, but has always been just shy of the balance to make it truly fun, and ArenaNet still haven't actually tweaked. But that exists, and there's a couple of missions that you can play in the Infinirarium. There's also the minigame The Bell Choir, which is kind of like playing DDR, or Guitar Hero is the more appropriate comparison to make for people who don't love to play lots and lots of DDR like I do. And this is fairly rewarding. The way that the dailies are structured are that usually you're going to be encouraged to do some of this stuff each day. There is an awesome jumping puzzle where you're on a strict timer. Your health is constantly chunking down due to the bitter cold. There are big snowballs and generally really beautiful areas. And then lastly, you have the Snowball Mayhem, which actually is one of my favorite formats for PvP in the game. And in fact, since the first year of Halloween, where they had like a MOBA-style Halloween PvP minigame, which we haven't really been able to play very much of, this is one of the things I really look forward to every year. It's the same as in Guild Wars 1, where people used to really look forward to the snowball fights, and ArenaNet eventually allowed us to kind of have like tournaments with them. It seems there's very little chance for that in Guild Wars 2. We're right in the middle of our very first PvP season, and say what you want about the meta or any issues that may have arisen there before now, I think ArenaNet can't really try and push the snowball fights, no matter how cool they are and well balanced they are and fun they could be, if you could actually take them into a team-based scenario where you didn't have to sync queue with your friends. ArenaNet can't support them further than they do, but maybe at some point they will. I really like the snowball fights. I really like these environments. I'm feeling like I'm wandering around in new areas, and it really struck me today while I was playing in the Wintersday zones, running through these frosty, snowy hills filled with trees, that I miss that sense of exploring a lot of new areas. And actually, I guess, without me realizing it, Heart of Thorns missed that mark more than I even could have anticipated. You know, couldn't stop thinking wide-eyed about exploring the northern or the far Shiver Peaks once again, or a lot of these new areas. But you get that experience with Wintersday, and that's been really, really fun. The final thing as well is kind of something that I had the last year, where you can meet up with these kids in your home instance and go on kind of a bit of a scavenger hunt that takes you over multiple days, where you help them out, and eventually, if you don't already have it, you get access to a Wintersday tree, which gives you a Wintersday present all year round, and some of us have had that pleasure for a year already, but if you missed it last year, then you've got that opportunity there. So that's Wintersday. I will talk more about that in the future, guys. Don't worry, we're going to have more videos on it, and I'll let you know about some of these new items and the reward systems they've got in, because there is a lot, but there were also other changes in the patch that I really do feel like I should talk to you guys about. Specifically, let's look at Fractals. So there was a post on Reddit a little while ago where someone highlighted like 4 main areas, and I think they were fairly agreeable areas that they felt Fractals needed improvements. And Colin Johansson responded. This is where it was revealed that they've got like a Fractal team, and kind of said, look, at least 2 of these main key areas of Fractals are already being addressed with this Wintersday patch. And so what have they changed? Well, late scale Fractals shouldn't be such a grind fest. The mobs shouldn't be such HP sponges at this point. Rewards specifically have been massively rebalanced. You're getting more gold, you're getting more experience to go towards masteries, and you're getting a lot higher chances at ascended stuff. Still, as far as I'm aware, not what people would have been expecting for scale 100, but far dramatically better than what Heart of Thorns originally released with. So already big progress has been made with Fractals, but when it comes to more specific nitty-gritty changes, like changing the instabilities themselves, which some people have considered to be quite unfun, and perhaps even adding future Fractals, that stuff we're still not quite there yet, but the core structure of the rewards with the Fractals has gone through now, and I think people in general are more happy with it. Even some of the ridiculously bugged collections and achievements have been unbugged, and this is a great start. For me personally, I'm still scale 50 in Fractals. I haven't really done any more of them. For me personally, I'm wondering whether I want to look at this mode of the game yet, and I think my answer to that question is still no. I think I'm still not particularly excited by the idea. I think on hearing, just with Heart of Thorns, that the next 50 scales they added really didn't change very much, and most of them were kind of unfun instabilities, makes me question heavily whether I really want to play through that stuff, you know, an extra time and go through all the grind of getting my extra agony resist and so on. So until I think those next 50 Fractals are actually a lot more fun, even though now they're more rewarding, they're more fun themselves, as a player, I doubt I'll be doing too much more Fractals, but if you're one of those guys that's been holding on to a lot of stuff, you can now kind of cash in and reap some rewards. Away from Fractals, we of course had general balance around the world. And there's a lot of stuff. This is one of those huge patches. So I'm only going to show you guys my highlights. There's a link in the description if you want the full list, if you really must. But Tangled Depths. Very interesting little note appeared here. Chuck Gerrant was scaling too aggressively, so we fixed a bug, basically is what they say. Wow, so this bug, guys, air quotes, actually appears to have nerfed the difficulty of the Chuck Gerrant encounter. Those will be succeeding more frequently now. Perhaps you won't need guilds dedicated to it. I'll be doing certain streams next week, specifically looking at this and how aggressively it does scale now. And of course, many more of us want to do this for our legendary collections, as well as legendary armor from the raids, where we need to infuse spirit thread and stuff. Not only this, and this is the better part to me, a lot of the achievements for the Chuck Gerrant were bugged, and they weren't even working. Well, the lane defender achievements have been fixed, and that's a huge block of the Tangled Depths achievements. So I'm at least going to do at least 4 more Chuck Gerrant kills, just so that I can kill each Gerrant in each lane, get all those achievements done. So that should be really, really cool. Some other general balance and change. They say specifically that guild hall decorations are now more permissive to place. That's a really unspecific thing, and especially for a player like me who has not really looked too much at building his own jumping puzzles or making his own decorations, his own little houses. I think a lot of guilds still are only in those building up stages, which I do still agree with in principle. I like the idea that it's a long progression to get your guild halls up over, you know, the majority of a year. I still like that idea, but I guess many of us in the community haven't played with some of these guild hall features as much as we'd expect. I know I certainly haven't. So what that exactly means we're more permissive, I'm not sure. But when I do videos specifically talking about what it's like to be a guild hall decorator, you can bet your asses, guys, I'll talk about, you know, where it's clunky and where it's not, because we had seen a little from the original streams that it was a bit clunky. So on the PvP side of things, we did, as I already said, have a few good changes. Specifically, the whole if you disconnect and the game's a forfeit, but you win anyway, but you still lose a pip anyway, that's been fixed. Little things like that. But those important balance changes, again, haven't gone through just yet. Just more profession tweaks and bug fixes. You know, things like necromancers had infinite range on a trait proc on a single skill that they could use with that trait. You know, stuff like that has been fixed, but nothing super major as far as I can tell. The most funny thing that came of this, to me, was the change to the Vial of Salt. Now, the Vial of Salt is kind of a half-jokey ascended amulet that you could get for participating in this first season. And, you know, you could build it up through the Mystic Forge. It was a fairly expensive thing to get that also required you to do a fair amount of PvP. But what was really unique about it was it was ascended gear that gave you access to some stat sets you couldn't anywhere else, namely Assassin's stats. Assassins being Precision Major stat, Power, and Ferocity Minor. And until this point, there was no way to have that. The catch, though, the caveat was the devs had foolishly coded it to only be of exotic quality. So even though it was an item you moused over and it was supposed to be ascended, it only gave you the stats of an exotic thing. So it was basically useless. So the way that ArenaNet fixed this, it is now ascended stats, but I guess they didn't want to code ascended assassin stats and stuff into the game. So now it's a 100% generic amulet. It's just stat selectable. So very much like if you were to make, say, the Quiver of 1,000 Arrows back piece in the Mystic Forge and then stat select, it's the same as that except an amulet for you. So it's not great, really. I'm a bit sad that Assassins disappeared, but I am fairly confident, given the way they've been handling some of this stuff, like the Mordrum Loop as well, that Ascended Jewel Crafting could be an early patch we see coming in with Season 3 of The Living World. I think that's a fairly safe prediction to make, but we'll have to see. Last thing to talk about, and I don't really like getting hung up on this, is the gem store had a lot of new things added to it. The main thing to point out, though, are there are new hairstyles, and I think the things most people are hyped about is you can now be Bilbo Baggins as an Asura. And if I had more male Asura, I might actually consider doing that. But your total makeover kits and stuff are now more worthwhile. There's a snow glider. There is the new weapon set, of course. There's a couple of promotions, but you guys can check that out when you get in game. And that's pretty much it. Speaking of the gem store, if you are fancying some free gems, I will just remind you, Christmas Day, my competitions end. So if you're finding hidden annotations in the video with keywords, before I remove them, you can leave those in the comments. You'll be entered into chances to win a lot of gems. Remember, we have thousands and thousands and thousands we're giving away. Liking videos gives you good chances to win gems, and we have an art competition going on. There's also a link in the description. Those are all opportunities for you guys. Hope you're having a lot of fun as we wind up into Christmas. There's been a lot of news with me on the channel, such as the first episode of Final Fantasy X-2 actually being fully finished, and I've kind of given it to people as a treat on Patreon before the main series starts going out, and quite a few changes with Concrete Ducks as well. So check those out, guys. Let me know what you think about Wintersday this year, because you probably would have played a lot more than me before I do this video. I'll give you more impressions and good stuff tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.